Here's Brody Brazil.
So here we are in January of 2024, and there's been a lot more talk lately about where the A's will actually play next season in 2025, and those temporary seasons between Oakland and potentially Las Vegas in 2028. And you realize to a certain degree for Major League Baseball, this is pretty important and this is pretty urgent. They need to come up with, internally, at least a schedule and something to plan around for next baseball season after this one, and they'll eventually release that to the public at some point this summer. And I understand the public fascination already about where the A's would call home, what city would they stop in, what team would they share a ballpark with. There's a lot of logistical questions, obviously. But what if I told you the most important aspect of these temporary years, like 25, 26, and 27, and maybe beyond, the most important part of those years is actually the cost and the financial side of where the A's will be after playing 3 seasons in a place that wasn't designed to be their home. More on the income and spending in just a second, but first let's reestablish the timeline here. 2024, definitely happening at the Coliseum. It's the end of a 10-year lease, so that is set starting in late March, early April. But 25, 26, 27, yet to be determined. And I do realize within the last couple days, the speculation in Sacramento has gone way, way up. I've been saying that all along in the last couple months, that I think it just makes the easiest sense. And there's a lot of connections already in place in why Sacramento could be asked to be a bridge city between Oakland and Las Vegas. But yeah, the possibilities have been out there this entire time. Maybe stay at the Coliseum. It certainly doesn't look like that is an arrangement that can be made between the two parties. San Francisco, the Giants would obviously have to make some concessions and sign off on Oracle Park and strike a deal with the A's to share that facility. How about Summerlin, home of the Las Vegas ballpark and the AAA Aviator Stadium? But there's a lot of questions and concerns there, and temperature and clubhouses and playing surface, and then maybe even wild card cities like Salt Lake City or sharing Angel Stadium down in Anaheim. There could be some things that are, I would say, off the map. They're on the map, but they're not exactly at the forefront on everybody's radar. So the possibilities are all still out there. Certainly Sacramento is feeling like a favorite, but even if it's Sacramento, there is some really important stuff to think about here. That logistics are the obvious obstacle. That's, again, where the fan's mind goes initially. Well, how will you work the schedule between the A's and the River Cats, and what clubhouses will they use, and how about just all the technicalities and fine details? It's easy to let your mind go there. Fan support, what will it be like in Sacramento? Is this a tryout for Major League Baseball in Sacramento? No, the answer is it's probably not. I'll do a separate video on that. But all of those logistical things are where our brain goes. The incurred cost of these temporary seasons, as you really dig in and look at it like I have, that seems to be the most critical variable of them all. The cost of going to play in Sacramento for 3 full years and the income that maybe won't be there in Sacramento or anywhere for a temporary few seasons, as opposed to the amount of money the A's need to start spending during these temporary years. Here's what's obvious. Nothing is an optimal setup or scenario. There is nothing here that's turnkey for the A's. There's not a brand new baseball stadium that they can play in already in Las Vegas. There's not a landing spot they can stay in Oakland. Even in between, I think there's some details that would have to be worked out in Sacramento. I don't know initially that is some slam dunk. I mean, it makes sense to us, but everybody's got to agree and shake hands on it. This is a bridge for at least 3 full seasons. That's considering absolutely no delays in Las Vegas. You realize there's currently a 2-tower hotel on that site, the Tropicana, on 35 acres. So that needs to be demolished, and Bally's has to be on the same timeline. This is also an A's team that claimed losses of $40 million in 2023, and I believe it was a similar amount of losses they claim in 2022. So we'll never know the books, and no major league team ever really exposes that. But if it really is $40 million of loss between those 2 seasons, how are these temporary seasons going to look, and all the incurred costs there, which I'll spell out for you in just a second. The big picture here is highlighted at the bottom. This is an A's franchise that's going to need to spend a whole lot more and potentially make a whole lot less for 3 pivotal seasons before they hit Las Vegas, before they're supposed to debut in a brand new ballpark with a team that's competitive and make that oh-so-important first impression in Southern Nevada. And I'm also considering here that their construction loan of however much money is likely to begin in 2025. So these are critical times. Let's talk about the income and how the business might be affected. It's going to be a cut-down crowd wherever the A's play these temporary seasons. I'm assuming here Sacramento or Summerlin or Salt Lake City. I suppose I could have put San Francisco on there. Obviously, the capacity would be much greater at Oracle Park. But the agreement and the split and the business deal that the A's would have to strike would also be much different. You realize the A's are paying a little over $1 million of rent for the Coliseum for 2024. You'd have to think that wherever they play with these temporary homes, even in a minor league stadium and city, the rent is immediately, or the share that they'll have to give is immediately much greater than that. And let's go ahead here and assume it's Sacramento, 10,600 seats. And so the Coliseum average, even in a year like last season, where fan support was intentionally low, it wasn't much lower than 10,624. And that's considering you would sell out every game in Sacramento, which I don't know is or is not going to happen. But you definitely don't have the major league suites and amenities and the ability to have a crowd one day of 25,000 or 32,000 for fireworks night. 10,624 is the upper limit at Sutter Health Park. I almost keep saying Rayleigh Field, just old school like that. But small crowds also mean not just the ticket sales. You're saying, okay, well, they can make money elsewhere. Well, means less gate money, obviously, for tickets, but less money in parking and merchandise and concessions and etc. But maybe some or all of that money has to be shared with West Sacramento or the River Cats or whatever entity is allowing the A's to play, hypothetically, in Sacramento. It's a lot different of a scenario than even currently what they have at the Coliseum. So clearly, the income is going to be cut there. Here's the biggest expense, though. Player payroll. I mean, the A's, like I said before, really have to figure out the way to make themselves competitive over the next couple years. Las Vegas has made it very clear that this team had better be in the running and have their feet running as soon as they touch down in Southern Nevada. Their team payroll is currently about $100 million below the league average and median. 2 different numbers, but you understand. They're about $100 million less than the middle of the pack of Major League Baseball payrolls. And so let's be honest. To compete and sustain, the A's are not only going to have to bring up young players, but they're going to have to surround that core in the next couple of years with free agents, big long-term deals. Their team payroll is going to have to greatly increase quickly. Honestly, I'm surprised that even in 2024 and knowing and thinking they're going in that direction, that they're not committing to players and big contracts and really trying to build the future already. But if they're just trying to get to MLB's average or median, that's an instant expense of $100 million for players alone per year. And so 25, 26, and 27, there's $300 additional million. And $1 billion if you're talking about the first decade, 2025 through 2034, let's say. That is a new expense that the A's have never had to face before, right? They've been Moneyball. They've found a way to spend and, I should say, not spend as much, but try and compete as much. They've never sustained as much. They keep turning over the group, but I don't know if you'll be able to do that and time this out for Las Vegas. This is a huge expense while you're playing at a minor league ballpark trying to build a major league caliber ballpark in Las Vegas, anywhere from at least $1.5 billion or up. And I always shy away from this aspect of it because it's where I do my work in the broadcasting realm. Any media rights deal, any broadcast package, any new agreement that the A's have, and It could be for television or radio or both or streaming. Anything new that they do is not likely to garner as much as just the current deal. That's the nature of the business right now, and especially in a smaller market. I think I'm stating the obvious there. I have no industry secrets. I'm not knowledgeable on that. I'm just passing along here what's obvious to most of you. So that is also going to be part of the costly venture of temporary seasons. And then the loan begins, hypothetically in 2025. This is a project which, right now, costs $1.5 billion. You and I both know that numbers like that, wherever the stadium is, Howard Terminal, Tropicana site, the moon, doesn't matter. Construction costs always go up. So we're starting at $1.5 billion. We know the public funding is set at $380 million for the Tropicana site. That's already locked in and established with SB1. Now, there are some additional possible sources of income for the A's. I should spell this out too. Personal seat licenses, naming rights, sponsors, new sponsors. Again, we're displacing maybe old sponsors from Northern California, so you have to replace those and then get additional sponsors in Southern Nevada. Maybe new investors to the team. Maybe somebody buys a share or a stake in the A's. I would have to assume that the buy-in is at least $300 million. Maybe a casino down there wants to buy into the ownership portion. And then revenue sharing, which I put question marks on investors and revenue sharing. Maybe they'll get investors. Maybe revenue sharing is perpetual. I mean, it seems like they're staying on it. It's been confirmed, but never by any direct source. Anyway, the possible loan that the A's might need for their ballpark down there is anywhere between $400 and $900 million. I realize that is a tremendous window and that's not very specific, but again, we don't know how all of this is going to shake out. Even if the $380 million is going to come through in full from the state of Nevada and Clark County. So the possible loan could be all over the map. Annual interest payments on the construction loan, I suppose, could start anywhere as low as about $15 million. It could go up to something like $40 per year. It could go up even beyond that. And then there's also the required profits that the A's need to make as part of the arrangement with a banking institution that they need to pull in $20 to $115 million per year just to secure and satisfy the loan of whatever certain amount that they have signed up for. So there's a lot of this business side, again, that they have to do so well while spending so much on the other side simultaneously. And the platform of playing in a temporary city for temporary seasons, it doesn't help that. It doesn't make that any easier that you need to start spending a ton of money while at the very same time, like if you're in Sacramento or if you're in Summerlin or even if you were in Salt Lake City, it's just not conducive to actually making that much money and doing that well as a business. So again, there was really no great option in any of this. And I understand everybody's talking about the logistics of sharing a field and the schedule and all that stuff. But quite honestly, the biggest takeaway here is the cost, the actual cost of playing temporary seasons. How will that affect the A's and what they're trying to do and finance this ballpark? You made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.